The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
Barbara, we seem to be having a problem. It starts and then it resets. So I don't know if they're hearing anything in the chat room or not yet. And it's reconnecting. So I'm going to have to, looks like reboot it.
Okay.
So I'll disconnect.
Will that knock all of us out?
No, it's not going to knock you out. It's going to...
Oh, I thought you meant disconnect Skype.
No, I reconnected to CBS, so I got to stop it again and then start. So I don't know what the problem was.
Oh, and it was March 19, 2011, sorry.
Yeah, it's reconnecting. Apparently they didn't shut the show off before or something.
Oh, we've had that happen before.
Yeah.
Still?
That's bringing back memories, actually.
It's running it runs about 11 seconds and then it stops and reconnects.
Okay.
So I'm just going to disconnect it and see if you can reset it or something.
Are you off?
Yes, and I restarted CBS. So look and see what it's doing. Jeff, you can put in the chat room. It's going to be a couple of minutes till we get this fixed.
I'll risk opening my browser and hope it doesn't make me fall off. That's, of course, if the chat room will let me in.
It's still showing.
Still showing as connected?
That's okay, now try.
All right. No, it's going real slow. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah, it gets up to 16 seconds and then it restarts.
I'll see if I can get a hold of Rain or Nick. They were the last ones on.
Okay. Is Centova going right now?
Yeah.
So it didn't disconnect when I disconnected it. That's probably...
No, I restarted the server.
Oh, okay.
I said in the chat room, sorry, technical difficulties. You're like, John Gremlin said them after midnight again.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, I'll try one more time here. I completely got out of CBS and I'll try again. Sorry about this, Rick.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, I remember a few times when I had the show on, I did the same thing.
Yeah, it's just not connecting.
And it's not my energy, even though I have weird things going on around me all the time. So.
Well, I tell you what we'll do, because it's not gonna work for me. I guess we can go ahead and what we'll do is record the show and save it podcast and do it that way. So Let's just start right now, and we'll do it while Barbara's working on the end. If some reason or another that they get it fixed, we'll just connect and
Yeah,
keep
so go
going.
ahead and start taping so that way I can work
I got it
offline.
taping. I got
Okay.
it taping right now. So,
All right.
all right. So, Jeff, you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. Since 2003, Rick Hayes has brought inspiration and life-changing insight to thousands through personal consultation, media appearances, and nationwide speaking appearances. And tonight's psychic medium and life consultant Rick Hayes will share with us insight on the gifts of life and life continual. Rick is a best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and what many define as a world-renowned psychic medium. He's been recognized as one of the top 25 mediums in America in the 2014 published book, The Top 100 Psychics and Astrologers in America, and numerous awards and recognitions for his attributions to the industry. Rick has appeared on numerous radio and television shows, including but not limited to the Siffee Channel, formerly the Sci-Fi Channel, the Travel Channel, the Chiller Channel, Sirius Satellite Radio, CBS Radio, and a previous appearance on the Paranormal View 2 weeks shy of 7 years ago. And Rick's publishing books can also be found on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, plus my own report page on tonight's edition. Links will be provided. So welcome back, Rick Hayes. Yay!
Thank you. It's great to be back. And you said March 2011, and I'm thinking we're all about the same age as we were back then, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, we don't age.
No, I haven't
We don't
aged.
age.
No, I haven't aged at all.
It's great to be here.
Well, we want to thank you for taking time to be with us tonight. I know it's been a while since we've had John, and it's, you can hit me for that. I just haven't hollered at you hard enough, I guess, because I know you've been busy. So, but we got you on. We're having some technical difficulties, but we are going ahead and recording the show, so we'll be able to play the show later. Might even play it next week. We'll see how things go. But anyway, want to thank you for being here with us. And we have also with us Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
And we have Barbara Duncan, and she might be a little busy trying to get us up on the Centova. Yeah. That's where our problem's been, why we couldn't get online to be able to actually broadcast. But I got a lot going on, and I'll go ahead and announce that first. We got a thing going on in Gettysburg, April the 13th and 14th with the Paranormal View. We'll be doing an investigation on the Friday night at the Gettysburg Brew Works. And then we'll be doing a show live on Saturday night, so at a different location. If you'd like to join us, go to Facebook, look Henry Foister up, and send me an email, and I'll give you all the links and everything that you can join us. And the dates and everything of what we'll be doing. So do that if you'd like to come. With that, though, I want to get right on with Rick Hayes here. I've known him for just about as long as I've been doing my show. And I don't know if you had come with us the first place that I did, which was the Sorg Opera House. Were you with us doing that?
No, but I do believe, I don't know how long you've been on air now, but I believe you and I were, my show and your show was probably one of the groups that was one of the first ones on Para X several years ago, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been, and I guess I saw you. You said we saw each other about a year ago, and I recall that because we literally just had enough time to take a photo of each other together, and that was about it. So, because you were running and I was running, and we just had enough time to smile, get a photo, go take off.
Well, Barbara says try now. So hold on just a minute, and let me see if I can get this thing going here and see how it works.
I believe it's going to work.
Okay, we will try and see here. Let me get my little mousey to work in here. Okay, and let's see.
Or not.
Yeah, hold on here. I'm working on it. It's supposed to be...
So how about them Knicks, huh, Rick? Oh, wait, no.
Wow.
But I hopefully I should be pretty visible as a founding father. That's the most I can say.
Hang on just a minute here. Looks like my Winamp went bonkers on me.
Oops.
So hold on. I'm working on it here. Now. Oh, guess what? We are now live.
Ooh, can they hear us? Can you hear us? I asked the chat room.
They should be hearing us here soon. So we should be going.
I thought I was saying so in the chat room.
And they should be telling us if we are live now here on ParaX.
I have been disconnected from the show, from
all right,
chat.
Kat says they can hear me and Jeff. So
okay,
with that, we are good. I got Jeffrey here with us. And
hello.
I've got Barbara Duncan with us.
I'm here.
And we have our great guest. And Jeff already read the intro, but if you want to do it again real quick, like make it a short version.
Take about another 10 minutes, I guess.
Oh, well, okay.
It's a long intro. It'll be on the podcast.
All right. Well, we have with us tonight.
He needs no introduction. He's wonderful.
Oh, yes. We have the great psychic medium with us, Rick Hayes.
Psychic medium?
Yes.
Rick Hayes.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, okay.
No, there he is. I thought he did.
We are live. We are live, and we are ready to just make this show happen, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We are.
And for those, we had a little bit of trouble trying to get connected, but we have with us Rick Hayes, and it is live right now. So. I hope everybody is ready for a great show. And we was just talking. I've been with or knowing Rick for quite a while because I started my show in November. It'll be 10 years in November. And
wow! Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And we've been to quite a few different places together. I've been around with Rick quite a few times. And so it's always fun. I've been with you at Waverly. I've been with you at Post Town. And I'm sure that there's, other than events around, quite a few places. So always fun when I run into you.
Yeah, and we were just talking before we went live that we've known each other for a lot of years, and good. You're my friend, Henry, and it's always a pleasure to see you at these places. And we were talking about the last place was you said we saw each other about a year ago, and we were both. I mean, we literally just had enough time to smile, take a photo, and then we took off because we were both so busy doing things. So, but it's always great to see you.
Now, are you doing the Victory of Light this year?
I am not this year. I couldn't get it in my schedule this year, so but I haven't. I usually don't do he has one in November too. I usually don't do it in November either. I usually don't make November because of my schedule, but maybe we're looking maybe next April we'll be back there. It seems like a lot of the events that I've been consistently been at. Either the way my schedule's been for the last couple of years, it's either I've been somewhere else at the same time they announce, they contact us to see if we're available, it just doesn't seem to work out. But I'm hoping that we can, those that we've kind of been a part of the structure of for the last several years, we can get back on track and start getting a little more information about exactly when the dates are going to be, so we can work our schedule around that as well. So, but that's a great event. There's a lot of great events out there, and it's always a pleasure to be a part of each one.
Well, now, when did you realize that you had the abilities to see things?
Well, when my eyes opened.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, not blind, I don't think.
Oh, I had to get you on that one, Henry.
Oh, yeah, you did. I didn't think about that one.
Well, that's the question that's been asked. I'm going into my 17th year of being in the public with these abilities, and it's been, it's been a fast, incredible 17 years for me, but I share this when I talk, and when I talk with others, or if I'm in a speaking venue, I talk about how we're all given upon birth. We're given many talents, skills, abilities, gifts, and we're given those upon birth to apply those in our life path. A good example is my brother. He's a very talented artist, has been all of his life. He recognized early in his life, and in the last year and a half, 2 years, he's now he's been a professional artist for several years for a company, but now he's taken it upon himself to go on his own and go out on his own and doing incredibly well. Living in Florida, making me jealous, but doing, and I'm very proud of him doing very well. But and again, he had those abilities upon birth, and so I usually share with everyone, when you recognize your ability, whether it's musical, whether it's creative, whether it's the abilities, what I've been given, recognize them and apply them in your life in some way, because there's a reason for that. I'm no exception. I've had a moment of life upon birth. As I always share, my memory can only take me back so far. My first recognition of it is probably when I was around 6 years old, and I can recall this. People were, talking about so-and-so's no longer here, so-and-so had died, quote, died, or so-and-so had passed away a couple of years ago. And it really confused me, because it was like, well, I think you're wrong, because he's sitting over there in the chair. And so as a little child, I didn't quite, it was kind of confusing to me. But as I began growing up and growing more and getting more understanding of my abilities, then I recognized that it was something given to me at birth. So it's just been a normal life for me.
Now, did you have somebody teaching you or helping you hone your skills, Rick, or was this all just trial and error? No,
it was just I grew up, as I was talking about. I grew up, but I could see and I could hear those, and then what I call the next part of life, or life continual. And but I didn't, with my upbringing, it's a church upbringing, we just didn't talk about it. And so I just kept it to myself, and I did that till 17 years ago, and I had an experience in my life that was sharing with me what I was given. I was being selfish for keeping it to myself. And so that's when I decided at that time to start sharing with these abilities with others. But throughout my life, it's just been me, and I share this as well, that there's, if you recognize your abilities, and you have these abilities that we're talking about, the mediumship or psychic abilities or spiritual abilities, just be you. Don't try to be like anyone else. Don't try to be like me. Don't try to be like John Edwards or Teresa Caputo. Just be you. And that's what I've done all my life, is I'm just me. So have I had a teacher? I have, in a way, because I've been learning and continue to learn from those in the next part of life in the body of spirit that are sharing with me some things about how valuable life is here. And so those have been my teachers.
You mentioned a different bunch of psychics there, and it's true. It really is all individual on how you receive and share your gifts, right?
Yeah, we have, I mean, if you talk to other psychics and other mediums, we do have some similarities in our thoughts, but, you know, we recognize them, then we apply them in the way we feel is best for us. And it seems like those who try to follow someone else are usually the ones that doesn't go as far as they should with their abilities. It's almost like they stagnate themselves because they're trying to be who they're not being, it's being someone else. You know, I recognize there's, like for me, people ask me, they say, do you use any kind of tools? You know, Tyler Henry, the psychic out in California, he always scribbles on a tablet, you know, or on a pad, notepad, and that's how he communicates. And then there's others that use this tarot cards or pendulums or something like that. I've just been where it's just normal conversation. When I'm actually connecting with loved ones around us, I call it a visit because that's what we're doing. We're visiting. You know, I don't say I'm channeling. I don't say that I'm visiting. I usually say I'm visiting or I'm connecting with someone who wants to visit with us. So, and that's what we're doing. We're visiting with them.
Now, I want to let everybody know that if you do have a question for Rick, you can private chat it to, let's see, I need to back up just a little bit. You can private chat to, oh, she's still on there. Private chat to either Henry Foister or Ceiling Cat. I don't see Jeff in the room. So if you do have questions, send it over to us, private chat message, and we will get those answered for you. We'll get them right over. If you are listening from somewhere else around the world and you don't want to come over to the chat room, you can still ask a question by sending it to the paranormalview@gmail.com and just put attention question, and we will get those answered for you. And I do want to thank everybody in the chat room tonight. Appreciate it. I know we're a little backwards in getting started tonight because we had some problems, and do appreciate that. And those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you also, and I hope you enjoy the show tonight. I know when you are, or when you're connecting with a spirit, do they just come to you? I mean, you can be doing something else and all of a sudden one of them comes up to talk to you?
Yes, that happens. It's, you know, I do private consultations, of course, and individuals will, you know, I'm always, for 17 years before I have a private consultation, it's like I do what some call meditation, some call prayer. I just say I'm connecting and asking for guidance. But every time, Henry, for years, I always like, what if nobody shows up? You know, so I guess I'll just chit chat with them. I don't know. So, but it's never happened because, like in the private consultations, your loved ones know what you're doing. Your loved ones know that you're here for an appointment. Their loved ones here know you're here for a reason. So they're going to be here too because they've scheduled that appointment with you. So I never had that issue where someone has not shown up. But you know that happens. I just had someone ask me the other day. He says, "Well, in your daily life, you know, what are they still around?" Our loved ones are always around us. They're around us, but there's two things here. They understand that for us to learn life here, that they're going to respect us to give us the understanding of learning life. So they're not going to be popping in front of you all the time, but they're around you and helping you in your life as well. But for me, I mean, if I go somewhere, there's a lot of times I go like to a restaurant, or if I go into any other facility like that. If I'm just out shopping for groceries, for example, sometimes, you know, I'll see someone there and maybe with, I'll give you a good example. I guess it's about a month ago. I guess I was in I went in to just get a few groceries, and this older lady was coming down the aisle, and she was holding onto her cart, and she was going very, very slow. And it was just so inspirational for me, because right next to her was in spirit was this gentleman, and he looked younger than she did, but I knew they were husband and wife, and he was actually helping her, almost like pushing the cart, helping her push that cart. And so, and he didn't really recognize, he didn't look at me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" Or anything like that. I just happened to see him at that time. So yeah, they're around us, and so there's times that they know that it is time for us to visit, and it is time for us to share messages of validation. And then there's times that I'm just going through my daily life, and I always tell everybody, y'all live with me. Because it's incredible. It's incredible things that goes on around me all the time. I had nothing to do with the technical difficulties, by the way. I'll just share that, because things happen like that around me. I had a large event at the French Lake Resort last September, and I think there was like 150, 160 people there, and I was getting ready to come into the room and come up on stage. And right before it was time for me to come up, the hotel announced that the fire alarm had gone off. And our event coordinator for the resort, she kept being apologetic, and she kept saying, "We've never had this happen before in years, and I don't know why this is happening." So I had to get on stage even that night and say, "I had nothing to do with the fire alarm," okay?
Oh, Andy. Well, I don't know if you read cats, Rick, but my cat Moo, every sentence we got on, will not move away from the microphone. I don't know what it is she has to say.
Maybe I was supposed to give her a message. Maybe she's waiting on a message.
We got questions from the chat room already. Kat said she misses you doing the show here, and wanted to know if there's any chance that you'll be doing a weekly show again.
Well, at this time, just due to my schedule, and you know this, Henry, it takes to do a one night a week show. When I did the show, I think I did it for 5 years on ParaX, and it isn't just, it took several days to get it all together and prepare it. And so it takes a lot of time to put together a show. And so, because of my schedule, I'm restricted with that amount of time now, but we are working on something. I guess I can announce this, and we are working on something. We've been working on it now since, for about the last 5 months, but, we was hoping to launch it March 1st. I think we're going to March it. It's probably going to launch sometime in April now, maybe the 1st of May. But it is going to be a monthly podcast, and it's going to be, and believe it or not, it's going to be called Believe.
Really?
I don't know how we came up with that. The capital B, the capital E. But that is going to be it's going to actually not be an audio. It's actually going to be a video, and it's going to be a monthly video series. And the reason I'm wanting to do this is because we get, on a daily basis, we get so many questions and so many individuals, asking about things in the spiritual side of things or in life daily. And so it'll be about a 30-minute podcast each month, and it'll be archived. So, if anyone wants to know, for example, Rick, why do lights seem to burn out around me, and why do batteries seem to drain? I'll be doing a talk. I'll be sharing some thoughts on that and give you some perspective and reasons why. I'm also wanting to do that show because it's very, very important to me that individuals understand that those like me who have these abilities, and Sharon, we all have these abilities. And when we're born, we're given these abilities to recognize, to acknowledge those in spirit around us. Watch little children, young children. They're not imaginary friends. They're accepting what's there. But as we're growing up, we're told it's imagination, we're told it's a coincidence, and we start blocking them. So another reason for this series is just this podcast series is I really want to get out there and not so much that share this is how you do it, but more give you some insight of maybe how you can evolve with your own abilities and make them a part of your life as well.
Well, that comes around to how does one know if they have any psychic abilities?
Well, I know everyone has experienced this. Everyone has experienced. For example, if you're sitting at home and you're watching television and you think, and suddenly you think you see something at the corner of your eye, and you turn to look and it's not there. And I know everyone has had that happen. And I share that there is someone there. And I do share that to understand that your physical eyes, that's part of the physical body, does not see the body of spirit. So when you're focusing on the television, your physical eyes are focusing on the television, but your what I call the spiritual eyes is actually seeing that individual over in the corner. But once you turned away with your physical eyes away from the television and look at what you thought you saw, the physical eyes are taken over, and so you no longer see it. So we have those experiences. We've had those intuitions. Everyone's had intuitions. Everyone's had these feelings. Everyone's had these, where they thought they saw something, or actually, and the reason that we don't utilize them a lot is because, again, we go back to when you're growing up. If you tell mom and dad there's a man in your room and standing in the corner, and they say you're just having a dream, go back to sleep, and so we start actually blocking them. I also share that we second guess ourselves too much. I mean, that's the key right there is don't second guess. If you get the feeling that you shouldn't go outside and go to the mailbox at that time. There's something telling you or someone telling you don't at this time because it's a little slippery out there, for example. So, and just pay attention to what you're getting and don't second guess yourself. The third thing I share is be patient. You have to learn patience in evolving your abilities. Sometimes we want it too fast. Sometimes we want it right now. You just got to let it evolve in your own time. But we all have these abilities.
Well, this brings up a really good point because you brought it up with TV. Do you think with all the media that we're exposed to, especially the electrical EMF forces on that, does that help or hinder people waking up to mediumistic ability?
Well, I have Himalayan salt rocks in about every room in my house.
Really?
I
love
negative
them.
ions.
Do they work?
I don't know if they work, but they sure make the air feel better.
Huh.
Yeah, they do, and you sleep better and you breathe better. But it is going to contribute in some way, Barb. It's going to those electronics that we have. It gives off energy. Energy is going to affect in some way, but I don't feel like it's actually going to be a block because again. Well, if you was in my house, I love electronic stuff. I don't know the first thing about any of it. But, I mean, I can't say it, but if I say, hey, Google, my lights go on or my lights go off, and I got all that stuff in my house, and I'm still, I'm still seeing those. I got a couple in my house. When I moved here, I got a couple here that had been here since the day I moved here. And they don't speak to me, but they acknowledge themselves here, so they haven't been affected by it. But it can. I can't say it won't. It can, but again, I don't feel like it can be a total block for you.
And do you think that people's absorption into media, and they're constantly looking at their phones and what have you, that we tend to miss a lot?
We do. I truly feel we do. We in many private consultations, I've had those who be sitting here and be in my office and be saying, "Why aren't they giving me messages? My sister's getting messages, my brother's getting messages. Why am I not getting a message?" Well, first of all, it could be your own grief. Your grief is an emotion that can block. the second is that, and I share this, that we are so focused in our daily routine that we tend to not pay attention to the signs we're given. We're getting signs, we're getting acknowledgments of their presence, but we're so focused on our daily routine. And a side note to that is, if you have a dream of a loved one while you're sleeping at night, it is not a dream. They are connecting with you. And if your loved one is watch and look and see what that person looks like, what they're saying, because they're connecting with you. And it makes sense to me. When do they have your full attention? Whenever you're sleeping. So what a great time for them to connect with us. And so, but yes, we do, because of cell phones and texting and computers and TVs and all the electronic things that makes our life more comfortable now, it does tend to get us away from focusing on what's around us more.
Okay, now I want you to tell everybody the purpose of those photos of the week that you used to share on your show. That really was to get us looking at other things other than ourselves, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I forgot all about that. That was that was an exercise for everyone to just focus on something else.
That got to be a weekly competition with a lot of us.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I'm going to have to go back in the archives and look at those, because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. That and your M&M dish.
Oh, yeah.
I still have it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
I do not go anywhere without. I've got a reputation now, Barb. When I go to events or when I go to appearances, I always seem to bring back home a bag or two of M&Ms that's been given to me. It's like, I hear you like M&Ms. Here, we got you a bag of M&Ms. I've got a stockpile of M&Ms in a cabinet, and I love it.
Yeah, I wasn't offered any when we was at Mid-South last year.
Well, I brought them home. I actually got 2 bags. I got a small bag and a what they call a 1 pound bag there last year from two really kind friends who stopped by and said hi to me. Brought me M&Ms.
Wow.
Next time, Henry, I see you, I'll share.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, all right.
We got a little late start, you might say, but as far as actually being on the air here in Para X, we started taping the show because we couldn't get on anyway. But I think what we'll do is we're going to take a quick break, and Jeff is still not back with us, so he's having problems getting on, and Rick might be able to fix that.
All right. When we come back on, Jeff's going to come back on.
Okay. So Barbara gets to take us out. How's that sound?
Well, okay, I can do that. Everybody, it's a good time to go out and grab your M&Ms and get ready to come back. You are listening to the Paranormal View here on ParaX Radio with your hosts Henry Foister, Jeffrey Gould, and myself, Barbara Duncan, and our very special guest tonight, Rick Hayes. We will be right back after a few messages.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making ParaX part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, ParaX.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Those listening in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. And speaking of those from around the world, Barbara, where do we have listeners at tonight?
Oh, they're coming in from the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, unknown, and we had Mexico on for a while.
All right. And I believe we might have Jeff back with us.
Yeah, I should be a Luddite.
And I want to welcome back Rick Hayes with us.
I'm glad Jeff returned. before we went on, I said Jeff will be back with us. So
yeah, well, Skype decided to kick me out. I got kicked out of the chat room. Then Skype went silent. I'm like, oh, that's just the beginning. And sure enough, it did. Then my computer completely locked up, and it took me forever just to get it to shut down to restart. So I was like,
wow. Well, Rick said that you'd be back after the break.
Yeah, I had faith in you, Jeff. I had faith in you.
I just found out, by the way, like literally right now while I was emailing the Paranormal View at gmail.com to say, I'm trying to get back in, that next week, next Saturday, I may not be, I don't know if I can do the whole, I may not be in at all because we have to do a rehearsal, both cast and camera rehearsal for the short, which is shooting on the 24th.
Okie doke.
Just, No,
that's okay. We'll muddle through. Speaking of spirits that we've been talking about, spirits are pretty much everywhere we go, right?
Yes. In fact, it's a part of life. We tend to sometimes we tend to think it's two separate. We tend to look at it, it's here, and then we tend to look at it, it's another section. I give it the definition of this. It's all actually one, because it's like we're in the physical body now. It's, give you an example, it's just like being in a home. If you and I were sitting in the den, and we were in the physical body, and Barb and Jeff was in the dining room, and they were in the physical body, we're in separate rooms, but we're under one roof and in one house. And it's the same way in those in spirit and us here. We're in this part of life, they're in the next part of life, and it's all one life. So they're around us. They're and again, just keep in mind they're around us, but at the same time they respect the fact that we are learning here, and we're learning how to this part of life. So it's not like they're bothering us all the time. There are times that they will, for example, you might get woken up in the middle of the night for some reason, and you wake up and you don't know why you had been awakened. You feel like someone had awakened you, and then you realize, hey, I may have left the stove on, or I may have left something on. So then you go and check, and sure enough, it is. So they're here to direct us. They're here to care about us. They're here to love us. They're here to show us. You was talking, but we was talking about Gettysburg earlier. Historical locations for me is a lot of fun because it's almost like I'm stepping back in time. Gettysburg is a good example. I've been there 3 times in the last, 17 years. And, each time I go there, it's almost like I'm watching a reenactment of what happened there. And they're doing that for me to let me understand what they felt there and what I feel a lot of times when I'm there is what they felt. The feeling brave, feeling fear, feeling hurt, feeling pain, and so they're around. They're there's always a reason why they're around as well.
Now, Rick, this came up a couple of times, and it's an interesting academic question, which is, they're around us. They obviously know that they're on the other side. They're consciously aware that they've passed. They must be aware of time passing and the fact that technology is increased. So when people who are using an Ovilus or a tape recorder, and you ask them to speak into that, speaking to this right here, they know what you're talking about, right?
Majority of the time they do, and I've had those they'll visit with us, and they'll say, for example, they're with that loved one when they're on the computer, and they'll tell me, they'll say, I don't know the first thing about them, but they're aware of how technology has advanced, and the equipment that we have today. And Henry, did you and I do Waverly together once?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Yeah, we did, and that's a great place, a great example. First of all, the technology has advanced so much from where it was just 10 years ago when it comes to investigation. and I'm just in awe every time I see the equipment coming out. But that's a good example of the Waverly, because when you go to the Waverly, for example, and you have this equipment, well, first of all, they know the equipment because there's been so many in the last at least 15 years that's brought equipment in, so they understand what you're doing. The other thing is what they're doing is I like it whenever an investigator will say, we have this piece of equipment, and all you need to do is walk up close. It won't be in any harm to us or you, and just walk up to it and speak, or walk up to it and make make the lights flash. When you give them kind of a direction, a lot of times that's helpful as well. But they know what you're doing. They know that you brought that equipment in to give a validation, and they really want to do that. I just, for those in spirit that I visited with, they really want us to see that they're around. So when we have that type of equipment, they're gonna help utilize that as well.
So did you actually investigated room 502 at Waverly, right?
Yeah, actually, I've been there nine times in the last 17 years. Wow. I feel like I got a personal room there. But I actually got to go into Waverly before it became really popular. Tina and Chuck invited me to come and just kind of walk the area, and 502, I'll share this with you. I know the background history of it, but the first time I went there, I didn't feel, they was telling me that she hung in this one certain area. I didn't feel that in that one area. I was being told where she went to. There was like a restroom area up there. She went in there first for some reason, and then she came out. And what I get is she actually was hung, and she did hang herself. But she was hung just outside 502, not inside 502. And I think there's something goes across that she utilized. And, but that's what I get. A lot of times I go to these locations and I'll be directed. We're going to be in an abandoned prison here in April. And they had a public hanging of a serial killer in this prison. And the first time I was there several years ago, they actually have a prop there where it shows with a noose, and they're saying this is where he was hung. And I actually went over there and I said, no, you need to move it over about 3 feet. So, it's like, and I'd be told, no, it needs to move over a little bit, so. Now, that's the same thing with the Waverly. When I went to 502, I didn't feel inside 502. I felt just on the outside of 502. So, terrible place, by the way.
So when you get these feelings or whatever, do you get a vision and see something, or is it just where they're kind of talking to you and telling you something?
Well, I see them, the way I see them, if I'm in personal consultations, a lot of times I will see them the most normal way for me is an elongated light, very bright and colorful in the center. And that's been the most normal way for me throughout my life, and usually different lengths. And I've been using this the last several months so everybody get a better understanding of what I see. There was a movie came out, a film came out. Jeff may be aware of this since he's in the film industry. There was a film came out I think it's about a year ago. It's called The Shack. And in this film is a very, very inspirational film, and in the film there's a scene in there where this gentleman is standing with 3 spiritual individuals, and they look down the valley. And I was given the DVD. A client, everybody kept asking me, they say, Rick, have you seen The Shack? And I'd say no. They said, you got to go see The Shack. And so finally one day my doorbell rang in my home, and I opened up the door, and there was a friend client there, and she stuck out this DVD and she said, here's The Shack, watch it. I said, okay. So I watched it that night, and when there's this scene in there where these 3 spiritual individuals are with this gentleman, and they look down this valley, and there's these thousands of elongated lights, colorful lights down there. And this gentleman, I won't give it away, but this gentleman asked the 3, what is that down there? And they told him who it was. And it's like when I saw that scene, I literally jumped up off the couch, and I said, finally, there's something near of what have been seeing all my life, and it's very, very close to what I've been seeing all my life. So that's one way. I've also seen them at times as what I call light shadow. The TV industry likes to call them shadows, and oftentimes they'll say there's a shadow, and then they'll act like it's all scary and spooky. And it's like, no, it isn't. It's just someone telling you they're here, So, but sometimes I see it that way, and then there's times I will see them in full body apparitions. And the most often times I see them in that way is when I'm in historical locations like the Waverly, or like the different locations of history. And again, it makes sense to me because we talked about Gettysburg. I see that too. It makes sense to me because what they're doing is they're not in a physical body anymore, but they're showing me how they looked in a physical body, so that maybe I can now get an understanding of maybe their piece of history there, or maybe the time period they were there by the attire they show me and what they're wearing. And again, it all comes down to this: they're helping me to better understand. And so that's the many ways I see them. I also hear them as well. You asked about hearing. I hear them as well, and they'll give me. It's what I call an energy of thought through communication. I hear them as well. And then also you ask about, do I get visions? I call them picture postcards. They'll give me a visual of maybe what it was like. We talked about Gettysburg earlier. When I'm at Gettysburg, it's literally like I'm there during that time. And I start seeing the visuals. So, and they help me sometimes by giving me those as well.
I had to look that up. Somehow I have not heard of that film. It was not released wide in Los Angeles. It actually opened literally a year ago today, March 3rd of last year. And I have no knowledge of it. There was no promotion of it. I don't remember even... And I look for independent film. I when I see something, oh, that looks interesting, I wonder what that is. But I have zero knowledge, and now I'm going to have to find, and I'm sure it'll be on DVD or Netflix or something.
Yes, and I highly recommend it. It is very, I connected to the film because it just has a great story about life.
The synopsis sort of gives away the premise. I was like, oops, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah. So, but it was an incredible film. I've been recommending for individuals who want to learn more about the spiritual side of things to watch it. That guy was very close who wrote that book was very, very close to when I watched it, it's like, yep, got it right. So.
Now, you mentioned that when you go to Gettysburg, or you see them actually going through the motions of the battle. Do you think that they're actually reliving that battle every day?
No, I love it in this industry where they say, well, those spirits are trapped, and it's like, you can't trap a spirit if they're going to go through walls. Well, how can you trap them?
Thank you.
I feel I feel like that again. They know that we're there. They know that we're wanting to learn about there. So what they're doing is, like for me, they know they're doing that to let us see. And sometimes, and it's really, we talked about Gettysburg, it's really interesting to me because I will watch them march, like you'll be looking down the valley, and you'll literally see them marching. And then you'll see, I hear the gunshots, but I don't see anyone fall. I don't see the blood. I don't see the negative part of the war. I see the individuals that was in. I'm going to give you a very quick experience there. And you guys have been there. You're familiar where Devil's Den is, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where I think the north came down one side of the mountain and the south came down. They met there, and it was the bloodiest. It was the bloodiest and the worst part of Gettysburg, a battle part there, because they literally did not shoot any guns. It was literally by fist and by bayonet.
Yikes.
And when we first got there, I got out of the vehicle and looked, and there was this soldier literally looking at me behind one of the large rocks. They are large boulders. And so I went to see if I could follow him. I thought he was trying to guide me somewhere, and then I lost him. And I went up to the top, you can go to the top of these boulders. And I'm standing there at the top, and I'm being pulled over to the side. And I go over to the side, and I look, and for a brief moment I look, and there's nothing but brush there. But then I started seeing what I call my picture postcards, the visuals. And I looked down there, and I saw this large boulder down there. I saw this large boulder, and I saw this, it was like a 15-year-old kid, and he was in a crouched position behind this boulder. And he looked at me, and he looked up at me, and he said, I was a coward. And I started being told by him that he had gotten scared and went behind this boulder to try to hide from the battle. And this is where he transcended. This is where he went into the spirit, because he was actually caught behind the boulder. And he was told me, he said he was, this is kind of gross, but he said I was stabbed in the head. And so once that was done, I was with a group of individuals, and I asked a group of individuals, I said, come over here. And so they came over there, and I started telling them what I saw and what I was being told by this individual in spirit. And one of the individuals started, as I was talking, going down that hill and going down in the brush, and he got about 3 feet down, and he stopped, and he said, oh my. I said, what? He said, and he pulled some of the brush back, and he said, look here, and right there was a large boulder. And you couldn't see it because of all the brush, but there was a large boulder right there. So this young gentleman in spirit was sharing with me his experience there in Gettysburg. He wanted me to see that. And at the time, he felt like he was a coward for trying to hide. I actually told him, I said, I would have done the same thing, you know.
Right.
So
Now, interestingly enough, between your last appearance and now, we had Craig Rupp as a co-host, and then he moved on, and then we had Kat Cloco, and Kat is very sensitive, so she can see spirit as well. And she was at Gettysburg with Henry at Devil's Den, and she could see all these piles of bodies at Devil's Den, and Henry, who doesn't see the other side, was just sort of stepping all on the corpses, and they're all like, hey, get off my face, you know, kind of an attitude. And Kat's just like hand on the face palm, like, oh, Henry, come on. Our guy.
Well, you know, does some people, I should say, not see things or feel things because they don't want to open up to it?
yeah, it's a choice. You know, I share that when we're born, another gift we're given is a gift of choice. We can choose how we live our life, adjust our life, change our life. It's also with our abilities. We can all, when we're born, and again, I go back to young children, especially up to about 3 or 4 years old. You know, young children, if you have a young child in your home, you're a parent of a young child, pay attention to them and listen to what they say and they see, because they're just accepting what's there. But as they're growing up, we begin to block them. And some makes it a part of their life, for like me, and understands. I even tried to block them early in my life, because I wanted to be a regular like everybody else, so I was trying to block them. I couldn't. But there are those who have blocked them. But even those, Henry, well, there'll be a time when they'll say, you know, I just got this feeling that I needed to get gas in the car or something like that. You know, they always say, I just got this feeling. And it's like, well, yeah, you've got your abilities. You're utilizing your abilities when you got that feeling. So, yeah, there's nothing mystical about it. Actually, I just feel like it's a part of life.
Yeah, sometimes I swear that I've heard things.
And seen things.
Yeah, to an extent. Well, when we was at Gettysburg, year before last, we was at the Dave Stewart farm, and we was out in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
We did the show from there, and then we went out to investigate, and we was all in the barn. There must have been 10 of us out there, maybe. And I was standing in the back when you first walk into the barn, And everybody else, was up in front of me kind of and asking questions and doing different things. And I kept seeing these little red lights come on. And I'm looking around to see if there's a camera on or something reflecting somewhere. I couldn't find anything. And finally I said, does anybody see those little red lights? And they all said, yeah, we see them too. I said, well, what is it? They said it's the Confederate soldiers smoking cigarettes.
Oh.
And, all I could see the little red dots come on, and they'd go out and stuff. But that's what they was saying it was. I couldn't see anything else, but Kat and them could, I guess. So, but that's what they told me.
And again, you recognized it, and you said, I guess, that's the thing. And don't second guess yourself when you get a visual like that, or you get a feeling. Just pay attention to it and don't second guess it, because it is a direction. I got to share this with you quickly. I just saw this when we talk about experiences at places. Last fall, I had the opportunity to be a part of an evening at it's a hotel. It's called the Metropolitan Hotel in Kentucky, and it was built. It's got an amazing history. It was built for the African American celebrities back in the a place to stay before when it was during the time when they weren't allowed in hotels and restaurants and things like that. People like B.B. King and Ray Charles and Billie Holiday and I mean, list goes on and on and on that stayed there. And so we did an investigation there that night, and we went upstairs where the sleeping rooms are, and we was getting ready to leave because we weren't really getting a lot. And suddenly, Rick was with me, and and right when we was going downstairs, I stopped him and I said, "We got individuals walking up down this hallway all of a sudden." And I said, "I'm being pulled to go into the room across the hall." So went to the room across the hall, and he had his EMF meter, and it was going crazy. And I said, "I keep wanting to say the word holiday." And I said, "I'm hearing holiday." And he said, "Well, that's interesting." He said, "You know what room you're in?" I said, "No." And he said, "This is the room Billie Holiday stayed in." And so I said, "Well, she's here." And so I started communicating with her and talking with her out loud. And every time she would respond, and I'd hear a response, the EMF meters would go off, or the lights would go off. And so we were getting some great validation. And all of a sudden I said, and this is the first time that I've had this, this has happened with me, as far as a celebrity goes. I was standing there and I said, "Well, Miss Holiday," I said, "we appreciate you for being here. We appreciate the life you gave to us here and sharing your gifts with us." And I said, you're just a sweet lady inside and out." And just about the time I said that, all of a sudden, it was like a small electrical impulse. I got kissed on the cheek. Is what happened. And suddenly, I'm standing there. I said, "I think I just got kissed by Billie Holiday."
Wow.
And Rick was with me, and Rick goes, "Well, that's no fair. I want a kiss, He said, "How come you get a kiss and I don't?" I said, "I don't know, but." And so
point out to your friend he should learn to play guitar.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. So I mean, I've had, and that's another thing. If you feel like this is where I'm leading to that. Sometimes I have individuals tell me, they'll say, "Well, there's times I feel like I'm touched, like I'm sitting on the couch and I feel like somebody suddenly touched me." Well, don't second guess that. You're being someone's telling you they're around. Now if you feel like you were touched and you look over and there's a spider on your shoulder, you better jump up and knock it off. But other than that, I can't say this enough. Don't second guess what you feel.
Which is good. There's a place that I've been working with the people and going to quite a bit is the Preble County Historical Society. And there's some younger kids that was there, and we was upstairs, just me and this the caretaker from there. And we was sitting on the floor asking questions, and all of a sudden I felt a little hand just touched me on the back. I said, "Oh, that's the first time that's ever happened." I said, "That was so neat."
Yeah.
I'm impressed you didn't head right for the door.
No. Yeah, which we'll talk about when we come back from break. About there's way too much of this where they're hollering that everything's negative and all this. So we'll talk about all that. I don't think stuff is all that bad as what they make on TV, and we'll talk about that when we come back from break, because I believe it's time to take a quick break, and Jeff gets to take us out. What do you think about that?
Yes. Now that I'm actually still on here, you're listening to the Paranormal View on para-x.com with host Henry Foister, ceiling cap Barbara Duncan, and myself, Jeffrey Gould, with our returning guest, author, and psychic medium, Rick Hayes. So stay tuned for more of the Paranormal View after the break.
Para-X Radio, programming for the open mind.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the Parax Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us tonight. And I just want to remind you, if you do have a question tonight, you can take and send it to H. Foister or Ceiling Cat. And I don't see Jeff in the chat room. So either one of us, and we will get those questions answered for you tonight. We have, of course, Barbara Duncan with us.
I'm still here.
And we have Jeffrey Gould.
Still here as well.
And want to welcome back Rick Hayes.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Now, before we jumped off, we was talking about spirits, and I don't believe generally that, I'm not saying there's not some that's bad, but generally I think they make stuff out to be bad or worse way too often than what it really is.
Well, you're right. It sells tickets and raises the ratings. So that's the majority of the reasons why. I'm not saying I agree with you, Henry. I'm not saying there's not negative energies here. If you want to manifest a negative energy, it's very easy. Be negative. Express negative. Be down and not be positive in life. And because negative energies, they manifest on that. So, but the majority of times, what we get, signs, or if we see something or if we hear something, TV likes to automatically say it's a negative spirit or negative energy. I've never had to deal much with negative energies because I choose not to, and so the majority of times it'll be actually just the dozing spirit trying to say, "Hi, I'm here." I do share that if you do feel like there's something negative around you, it's very easy to understand. I call it my Fantastic Four, and I've been to any place you mentioned. I probably have been there in the last 17 years, and there's been a lot of places where I've been instructed before I went in, "Oh, you better be careful, Rick, because there's some negative energies in there." And I always look at them and say, "That's okay. I got my Fantastic Four with me." And they start looking to see if I have comic books or anything, So, but my Fantastic Four is very simple. You go in with a positive attitude, because positive overcomes negative every time. You go in there understanding that you have a creator more powerful than anything. And then the third is that you are in control. We tend to give negative energies the thought. We tend to give them the control. You have the control. And if you know that, then you won't have to deal with them. And then the last is, and it's kind of a humorous statement I always say, but I always say, when I go into a place, I got family in that next part of life, and you don't mess with my family. They're around me too. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just human nature. People tend to thrive on scary things or things like that. We got a good friend Zach I saw he's got his trailer out for his new film, documentary he's got coming out about the house up in northern Indiana. And of course, the trailer is all depicting demonic and all depicting negative energies. And it's gonna sell the tickets, and that it's gonna people wouldn't come to a house. They say, oh, we got spirits here, but they like to party with us, and they're just around us, but they're like part of the family. Nobody's going to go see that. They're going to go see if something terrible happens or something negative happens. That's what they're going to go see. So, and I always share too. You can just keep in mind when you watch these shows on television, and everyone on television knows me, and I know them, but it takes 8 to 12 hours to do a 1 hour show. So, when you see an hour show, just keep in mind that they've been filming for, a minimum of 6 to 8 hours to do that. Yeah. And so just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you don't have to be around negative energies. If you feel, I go into homes where I've been called to go into residences where they're having things happening and they don't know what to do. And we go in there, and first of all, I always share, once you understand, the fear begins to be eliminated. And so once we understand who it is, what's going on, it gives them it gives them a feeling of comfort, a little more comfort. And then I just ask to share with the families, I say, you want to keep positive in here? Don't be arguing with each other, don't be down, don't be negative, and be kind to one another and bring that positive energy around, because positive overcomes negative every time. That's just the way it is.
Oh, and they need to turn the lights on in some of those shows. I have never seen such dark and depressing places.
And everybody, and that's really a good point, Barbara, because everybody's asked me this. Say, now, Rick, when you connect to it, do you have to do it in the night? And it's like, well, no, it don't matter if it's day or night with them. They don't care,
that's right.
So, I mean, you can go in. I've done investigations in the middle of the day, and it's fine. We've had last year we had an owner of a company that wanted to that hired us to go into. It was the South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee, and before we took them in, we was going to take them in that evening because they wanted to go in the evening for the ambiance. And so, but me and two of my associates went in there that afternoon, and it was perfectly daylight. And I'm telling you, we got all kinds. I mean, we were getting physical signs. We were getting, my associates were hearing them talking and hearing them, and so we knew that night it was going to be a lot of fun. But that was in the middle of the day that was going on.
Oh, yeah. My favorite phrase is, if it's haunted at night, it's haunted in the daytime.
Yes, it is.
That's right.
I do a lot of investigating during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not,
and again, Zach and Amy and those and all those that's got television shows, well, they're doing it at night. They're locked down. Zach and is locked down at night. Well, they're doing it at night because darkness just brings an extra ambiance, around it. I'm sure if they investigate during the day, they would get the same responses. But the TV, again, it wouldn't be TV without a little darkness. So, but you can. They're around us.
And well, at least in the daytime, you risk not having your, legs and your arms bruised up because you're bumping into things.
Yeah, actually, that you said that. It reminded me. I was invited. I was doing an appearance down in Florida. This has been several years ago. I was doing an appearance down in Florida, and after the appearance at a college, they asked me to go to this place because they've been having activity there. And we got there, and it was an old building, but it was a dance club. And I thought, well, what kind of, maybe they're talking about a different kind of spirit in there than what I'm thinking. And so we went in there, and when we walked in, I asked them, I said, can we go upstairs? And they said, we don't have an upstairs. And I said, well, I'm being told to go upstairs. And this gentleman said, he said, well, we have an attic, but you got to climb a ladder to get up there. And I said, okay. So we went up there, And fortunately for me, I always had this guy with me that travels with me, and because when I start visiting and start connecting, I'm not really paying attention to what's around me or what, I'm listening to them and I'm watching them, and so I'm not paying attention. So we're up here in this attic and we're just walking around, and all of a sudden I felt these two big hands just grab me and stop me and almost lift me off the floor. And I thought, what in the world? And I stopped, and it was my associate was with me, and he said, I just saved you. And he shined the flashlight down, and just in front of me, about a foot away, was about a 2.5 foot hole in the floor. I would have fallen right straight down into the lower floor. And he had stopped me, because I wasn't paying attention. And so when we got done, we got back downstairs, I thanked him immensely. I said, man, that, you saved me from breaking a leg or something. And, and then he said, well, that's why I'm here. And he said, why don't you do more of these things during the daytime? I told him, I said, it really wouldn't matter. I still probably wouldn't have seen the hole because I was so connected, so I wouldn't have paid attention. So I was very glad he was there, actually.
So why did they want you to go upstairs?
Actually, what that place was, I went upstairs and they wanted to show me. They actually had some items up there from what I was kept being told to tell them was they were telling me there was flour on the floor. And I couldn't understand what they kept saying, why there was flour on the floor, because this was like a dance club. And they said, the flour on the floor. Well, the owner then told me later that this building was at one time an old general store for the city, and they were talking about. He said when we moved in here, there was actually old bags of flour that set, and where they would sell the flour in those flour bags. And he said, well, look over here. And we went over to the corner of the attic, and sure enough, he said we found these were a couple we found when we moved in here, and they were old flour bags. And so they wanted me. What they were doing is they wanted to take me up there to show me, they had actually used it for different purpose than what they were using it, and they were also showing me, what it was like back before it was a dance club.
Wow! I'm glad they weren't trying to get you up there to make you fall through the hole in the floor.
No, that was my fault. That was my fault. And the guy that was with me, he played college football, a big dude. And when he grabbed me, I literally thought something was grabbing me, and it was him, fortunately. But he kept me from falling. And I've never had any physical things like that too much. We was talking about the negative spirits. I was actually in a home up in Illinois, an historical home, and we were going down the stairs, and we had the obelisk with us, and my associate was getting some very crude and rude words on the obelisk, and we got about halfway down the stairs, and I saw this shadow form, and I said, stop it right now, we're going to turn it off. And I got down to the bottom of the stairs, and I told this, I kept seeing this in this person, and I said, we're here to learn. But if you don't want to help us to learn, if you're going to be doing things like that, then leave. And I took control. And I turned around, and we was down in the basement, and there was different sections of the basement. And I was getting ready to go into the next room of the basement. And literally I was shoved and pushed up against that concrete block wall and hit my head. And I was bent over, and the associate was in front of me. She immediately turned around. She said, "You okay?" Well, I didn't even stand up. I turned right around. I saw the shadow form, and I said, "You leave now." And so my associate said she saw this black shadow go up the stair and go up and leave just as soon as I said that. And we didn't have any issue after that. So that was about the only time I've had that happen. And then, me actually going to fall in the hole, that was more me. I was in one place where when I walked in, this energy was trying to, nobody goes in my body. I always tell everybody, that movie Ghost, that don't happen to me because nobody's allowed in my body. But this individual tried to change my voice, and we got it on video. and immediately my voice started to speak, and it was completely not me. And I immediately stopped myself, and I said, out. And I went back to my normal voice, and then soon after, right after that, these flies came out of nowhere and started landing all over my shoulders. And so, and I thought, well, I took a bath this morning, so it's got to be something else, So, wow. But I very seldom have had those situations happen, and I've been to prisons, I've been to hotels, I've been on ships, I've been in any location pretty well you can imagine, and and a lot of them we've been told on television or something there's a negative energy there. I never had to deal with them. Henry, aren't you in Ohio?
Yes. I'm just where Post-Town is. I live about 15 minutes from Post-Town.
Okay, well, you got a prison up, I think, farther north, Mansfield.
Mansfield, yes, I've been to that too.
Yeah, the Shawshank prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've been told, be careful with Red in there. I've never had any trouble with Red in there. He's fine.
Yeah, I came so close to being able to go to Mansfield.
Yeah, I never had anything when I was there, and I was there with Tim Shaw. And we walked around.
Bear hug Reverend.
Yeah. And we walked around. We felt like that somebody was up on one of the tiers kind of watching us, but we never did see anything. I never did get a EVP. But there was also a regular ideal event there. So there was a lot of people with that, and you wasn't going to get any kind of audio evidence. But, other than that, I never had anything or seen anything there.
Well, it sounds like, from what you're describing, they're not so much demonic as bullies.
Yeah, you'll get some that are mischievous, and I share that, you evolved and created your personality when you were born and started evolving it growing up, and part of that personality will go with you. If you was a mischievous person, you're going to continue to do mischievous things. I've had, I've had loved ones in spirit share, start joking around with me and just kidding around, and the family members will say, that's him, and then I've had those that are just, I don't want to say they may have been angry here in their life, and the next part of life, we release all what I call the earthly emotions, the anger, the sadness, the disappointment. But they have the memories of how it felt when to be angry. But I'll have those that'll be like almost stern and almost firm and almost all serious. And again, the loved ones here will validate that. Well, that's him, So, but there's none that's. Now I will say this: if it's a negative energy, you will recognize it because it will try to manipulate you. It'll try to tell you. To be sad, to be angry, and it'll try to manipulate you in that way, but they don't have any power. You can handle it very easily. Just don't let it control you. Control it.
Now, Rick, do you see a difference in how they manifest themselves versus what type of spirit it is, like a black shadow or a dark shadow or a orb? Or a white mist, or something along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really in specific reasons. I think they do this because they understand we're utilizing our five senses in our physical body. So, they're trying to get our attention. They're trying to say we're here. So they will do what they need to do to get our acknowledgement of their presence. For example, if we see a shadow, then they're using our sight. If we smell an aroma, they're using the sense of smell, and they do that for us. They let us know, that they're, as I shared earlier, when I go to historical locations, the reason they're showing me their full body apparitions, in other words, what they look like when they were in the physical body here, is they're wanting me to understand the period of time they were there, why they were there. And for example, if I go into prison, I was in it's West Virginia Penitentiary in West Virginia. I was there last year, and we were actually had just enough time to take a year and a half ago, but we just had enough time to go through it real quick and just check it out. and we had a gentleman taking us through, and we went to this one large area. We hadn't been there very long. We went to this one large, like a cafeteria area, and suddenly I got poked in my side, in the back, and so I just didn't pay attention to it, but I got poked the second time, and I heard, "How's that feel?" And so I just kind of turned around and I said, "Respect me," and I took another couple of steps. It's like, "How's that feel?" So I turned around. When I turned around, there was this gentleman. He was shorter than I was, but he was standing there in full body apparition, and he was in prison garb. And he looked at me and he said, "How's that feel?" And then I looked at him and I said, I said, "I respect you, respect me. I got your message. Now let me go." And so he showed me that he was in prison garb because he wanted me to know that he was a prisoner there. And soon after that, the guy that was taking us around told us that this area, you had to be very careful in this area because it was very, in this certain area, groups, you was with the group, you was set over here. If you went over to another group, then you could have got shanked. And so it was a very high shanked area. And so this gentleman was trying to tell me either he was shanked there or that he had shanked somebody there. And so, that's why he was doing that. He didn't hurt me, but again, he was showing me that he was a part of the prison system there. And by the way, if you ever get a chance, go to that prison because it's extraordinary. I tell you, they closed, I think they said in 96, I think it was. But these cells that they put these individuals in, the maximum security, they were 3 feet. I think they were 5 by 7 foot cells. There was 3 men to a cell. And they had 2 bunks in these cells, and one of the gentlemen would have to sleep on the floor. 3 men in a 5 by 7 cell. Now, and when they told me that, I thought, well, no wonder they were fighting each other,
right,
here all the time, because, that'd be tough to live. So, and it actually closed. The guy told us it was closed due to inhumane conditions. But going back, Barb, that gentleman wanted me to see them as a full body, so I had to get an understanding. He was, if he'd have shown me in the light, I would have probably got out that he was a prisoner there just by talking to him, but by showing me what he looked like. And it was his choice. He chose to show me what he looked like so I could see it immediately.
Yeah, I often wondered, do they have the ability to change clothes, to describe how they see each other? How do they want us to see them? By what they're
wearing? Well, they're stark naked. No, I'm kidding.
Oh
no! No. Again, and it's hard for us to visualize. And I share with everyone when I see the elongated lights. Is that their body? It could be. We're all of energy. That may be our body in the next life. But, clothes is man-made. Clothes is something we wear in our earthly bodies. But when they appear in a clothing, they're not really in a clothing per se in the spirit. But what they're doing is, again, they're helping us get a visual what maybe a time period they lived there, or a time of when they experienced something there at that time, or being a part, like I shared with that prisoner. He was a part of the prison system. So sometimes they show us the clothing to give us better understanding and a better understanding of what we're to learn from.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Now I've been doing my show, be 10 years in November. How do you think the world of the paranormal has changed in 10 years?
Oh my gosh, you've seen it. You've seen it in the last 10 years. I mean, it's a positive. I'm seeing more and more just through my personal consultations and just traveling, and especially speaking in colleges. I mean, these young adults they're open-minded. They really want to learn. They really want to know more, and I think it's great. They're not being what I call boxed in and just in one thought, and they're opening up and evolving themselves, and I think it's great. I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing. I shared this a couple years ago. I think it was in 2016 or 15. I shared that I'm seeing a shift. We're seeing a shift in this world, and we're seeing a shift of many things, but we're also seeing a shift of the spiritual side of things. People are becoming more open-minded, and they're becoming more of wanting to learn and learn more about the next part of life. And I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. And in fact, I'll say this: shows like yours, who's been on the air for 10 years, which congratulations again, but shows like yours is really, really helping this positive step forward in the spirituality of things. So I thank you all for this show.
Yeah, back when we started, there probably was a handful of networks, and now there are a dime a dozen. So
yeah,
but I don't think people has stuck with it. I mean, they come and they go, kind of. I think they were looking for one thing, but they figured out that that's not going to happen. Doing a show like this, you got to be dedicated just to be able to do the show, not look for fame and fortune, you might say.
Yeah, and that goes back, and unfortunately, that goes back to, we still see it to this day where, if someone is wanting that fame and fortune, and that is their focus, not so much on the abilities of what they're doing, but more on the focus on the fame and fortune. I always say this: you won't see them around very long, because you got that energy will not get you in the direction of the path and the purpose you're supposed to be going on. And if you're just going for the fame and fortune, and a lot of people see the TV shows on, and since they see these TV shows, they want to try to have a TV show like that or try to be like that. And I said at the beginning of the show, the key is to be yourself. Just be yourself.
That's right.
And that's why you've been on 10 years, Henry. It's because you and Barb and Jeff you've been yourselves for 10 years. You've never been trying to be like another show. You just been yourselves. And and you're consistent, and that's why you're being successful with your show and been on as long as you have, because you're just being yourselves, and that's what you do.
And we're cheap dates.
I'll leave that with Jeff. I'm not going to say no comment.
Wow.
And I'll just interject this too. It's sad too, because you'll see, and I'm not going to name any names, but you'll you'll hear somebody saying that, they're going to be on a national TV show next year, or it's coming up soon. And I'm going to be the first to say this. I get producers contacting me at least, I want to say, a dozen times a year, and got this new show. And 16 years ago, when I first was approached by Mark Burnett's crew, who does Survivor Nest. Wow. Yeah. And he contacted his producer, one of his producers contacted, got this show we're developing. It's a paranormal show, and he says, we need your information like yesterday, and we're going to get this going in the next couple of weeks. Well, I learned very, very quickly what their next couple of weeks is. It may be 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I, when I get introduced, I just got one just a few weeks ago, and it's like, and they want me to send my film and my short and all that, and my PR information. It's like, okay, here you go. But now it's like, okay, when you're ready, call me, so, and I just don't focus on it, because, and it goes back, Henry, what you said, if you're looking for fame and fortune, and trying to force it to happen, most probably you're not going to be around. Yep. But if you just let things fall into place like it should and like it's supposed to be in your life, then you'll find that, just like for me in the last 17 years, it's been an incredible 17 years. I've had a lot of opportunities. More opportunities are coming. But I'm glad to just let everything fall in its place. And you won't hear me being on a show until the contracts are all signed, done, and they say we're airing. It'll be your first show will be on next week. That's when you guys will hear from me.
Well, it kind of helps to film. Kind of helps to film it as well. I mean,
absolutely, yeah, yep. So, and Jeff, you're in the film industry. You know how it is.
Oh yeah, it's what I am semi-implying before. I was actually contacted and attached to a film based on the killing spree of 1943 of Mansfield Prison. That a couple of prisoners escaped and went on a 2-week killing spree, and I was going to be the lead in this film. And other name actors like Jeff East and such were attached to this project for a few months, and it went on IMDb, and the producer was all gung-ho. And then out of nowhere, I get this email saying, oh, the project's gone into turnaround, meaning a new production company. And so essentially, all oral promises had been shattered, and I was like, dang, because it was going to film partially at Mansfield Reformatory. I was like, yay, I finally got to rent it. And the producer was all in, she was all into ghosts, so she was looking forward to that as well. It wasn't going to be like, yes, we're just going to film. I'm like, no, we're going to investigate too. But that fell through, and those of us who were all kind of looking forward to it, were like, SOL about it. But, now I'm friends with Jeff East, who was the young Superman in Superman the movie, and some other, actors from that would have been in that film and aren't anymore.
And see, and just on that, Jeff, I mean, this is the way I look at life experiences. Just on that, you didn't get that opportunity to do the film, but you gained a friend with Mr. East. So,
exactly.
There was something that was created from that, and that's what I share. Any challenges you go through in life, there is a reward, or there's going to be a reward or gift from that challenge, in some way. If it's nothing else, it's just if you just learn something from it, it's a reward. So, we go through challenges for a reason, and just like what you was talking about, and I've had those where we're going to do this next week, we're going to be filming next week, and then, and then next thing you know, well, we got to put that on the shelf for right now. We got these other shows going on. And so, and actually, I'll just say this, Mark Burnett is now no longer doing any kind of paranormal show. So, he's kind of got away from that because of his own religious beliefs and things. So, which is fine.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
That's fine. Yeah.
I did meet his wife once.
You did?
I was doing background on an episode of The Office, and the girl sitting next to me and I were chatting, and it turned out at the time, I don't think they are anymore, she was married to Mark Burnett.
Now, is that, are you talking about the actress he's married to now?
I don't know. I would have to look up the report page on it, but she was very attractive freckled redhead.
Okay, yeah, he's married to, I can't think of her name right now, but they've been married for a few years. She was on, with Della Reese in that about Angel.
Oh, Roma Downey. Angel?
Yeah. How did we get on television? We go from, it's all about the Paranormal View, We go for don't tell what you're going to hear on this show.
That's true.
If some other producer says, hey, we're starting a show and we're actually have a shoot date, and do you need a sidekick? You say, well, I've got this guy in L.A. who's,
Well,
he'll go anywhere and he'll do anything for paranormal, and he won't run and be a fraidy scared like some ghost hunting shows where they're like, something moved. You're like, seriously, come on.
Well, that's one of the things I share when I've done television. One of the first things I share with the producers is I'm going to be me. So I understand we got to kind of follow a script, but I'm going to be me. Don't expect me to get on there and start jumping around, act like I'm possessed or something, or start rolling my eyes to the back of the head. I'm going to be me. And fortunately, all the producers I've worked with, Travel Channel, they've allowed that. So, but I'm not going to get on there and start, saying, what was that, and things like that.
Right.
Well, that's like
I would make sure they take all the brown M&Ms out of the trailer.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I was doing an investigation with a group in Pasadena, and we were investigating a haunted Masonic lodge, and they were all jumpy. And I'm like, why are you doing this if you're automatically jumpy? And we had just been in like the little bar / pool room, which was a small little room. And we had gone into the auditorium, which was right next to it. And while we were just standing there, there was a noise of undetermined origin and whatever it was from the now empty room we had just left. And I automatically turned, and everyone else, you heard that? I'm like, yeah. And I started walking towards it, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I want to know what fell down. I want to know what happened. And, and it's just normal for me to walk towards the, quote, scary sound. And they were like, I'm like, it's just going to be Norman Bates's ghost standing there with a butcher knife,
Wow. Our time is, just running right on by real quick. One question.
But I have to ask a question.
Well, go right ahead.
Okay. Rick, in your talking with Spirit, are there questions you are not allowed to ask that they simply just won't answer you?
Sure. There's times that they won't, that they will. Well, one of the questions I always ask, and it's making sense to me in the last several years, but one of the questions I've always asked, even before I came out in the public, I always ask those around me, I always say, what's it like there? And they tried to describe a little bit, but they really, I get an understanding that our minds, our brains, our self cannot really comprehend what it's like in the next part of life. For example, it's hard for us to understand because in a physical body, we're restricted to be in one place in one moment at one time. But in the body of spirit, you can be here, you can be there, you can be, and it's hard for our minds to understand and comprehend that. So, yeah, there's questions like that. Now, I will say this, and I've been saying this a lot lately because we've been having a lot of this going on here lately in the industry. If you have a psychic or a medium that shares with you that you've only got so much time to live on this earth, or you're going to quote die in such and such a time, you run from them as quickly and as far as you can, because that is one thing that we with these abilities we are not to share that with anyone, and they often don't share it with us. Now, I will say this: if there's someone like a family member that they're telling me that they need to embrace them, they need to spend time with them, they need to comfort them, that's what I'll share. I always try to share everything in a positive way, and that's what I'll share. But we are not to share with you, and I'm not to. And I've had those. I've had those ask me. They say, "When am I going to quote die?" Or when how much more time I got? And I'll tell them. I'll say, "I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to ask them that." And they'll say, and I insist on it. Well, the loved one in spirit will, kind of look at me and kind of say the same thing. It's like they should be embracing every day. They shouldn't be worrying about that. I had one individual, it was about a year ago, I guess, and was here, and she said, I said, how you been? She said, terrible. And I said, why? And she said, I went to a psychic, and she told me I only had 6 months to live. And I said, how long ago was that? And she said, 8 months ago. And I said, how's it going for you? And she immediately said, well, I immediately replied to her. I said, let me ask you, how you been the last 8 months? I said, 8 months. I said, how you been? She said, I've been worried to get out of bed every day. And I said, so that psychic really messed up 8 months of your life that you really could have got a lot of great value out of. And I said, you shouldn't have been told that. So, again, my philosophy is it's your choice. You can choose what you want to do. Psychics and mediums can do what they choose to do. But my thoughts are, if you have a psychic or medium trying to tell you that you only got this amount of time to live, you need to run away from them as far as you can.
Oh yeah, that and you've been cursed.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Now, before we run, has any spirits come by and said they wanted to say something to us
tonight?
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't really been focusing on that. I almost wanted to whenever Barb was talking about her cat. Because I'll share this with you. Whenever you said something, Barb, about the cat, I felt that there was a female next to you that was also saying that that's where the cat should be. And so it was I feel like it was a mother or grandmother type that's near you, and they must have liked cats as well because they said that's where the cat should be. So I was going to share that with you, but I didn't, but now I did.
Well, it makes sense because she was a stable cat, and I was teasing her today that nobody else would put up with her kind of behavior because she's very fiercely independent. So, yep, that's where Henry, she should be.
And Henry, I need to go to you real quick. Is your wife on medication now?
Yes.
Is she on 2 different types of medication?
She's on a whole bunch of different types.
Okay, there's 2. I feel like she's taken 2 types of medication that may be for the same thing, and she may want just to have those. She may want to just see if those can be changed and where she doesn't have to take as much, or if there's something else to replace those. And I always share at this time, I always share with everybody, you listen to the experts in their field. You listen to the medical experts. You listen to the law enforcement experts. They're the experts in the field. But I feel like she's got 2 medications, or show me 2 pill bottles, and 2 medicine bottles, and it's almost like they're both for kind of the same thing. Maybe she's taking one in the afternoon, one in the evening. But she may want to just to check with the doctor to see if there's something that they could change on that where it doesn't need to be taken as much. Maybe 1 a day instead of 2 a day.
I will talk to her on that.
And also make sure that if she's got too many medications, that they're not counterintuitive, that sometimes 2 medications don't work well together. My friends were discussing that with their elderly mother who had 2 medications and she was getting sicker. And it turned out that the 2 medicines were not quite canceling each other out, just making her worse.
And Jeff, I'm going to just share this with you. I still feel like you should get an Oscar sometime in your life.
It'd be nice, but I need to get like an agent. I've got a commercial agent.
I assume his next cat he's going to name Oscar.
I've got a cat named Oscar. I've got Oscar and Oliver. But they weren't named. He wasn't named after the statue. They just happened to be 2 ginger cats with kittens, and I called them Oliver and Oscar, just to be alliterative. And it didn't even occur to me that his name is Oscar. In fact, he's sleeping right here to me.
Well, now,
Jeffrey, I got to ask you this real quick. I don't know how much time we got, but real quick, are you around someone, or is there someone that is? I'm seeing a gentleman with suspenders, and it's almost like he always wore these suspenders, and so I need to acknowledge that to you as well.
I don't know who that would be offhand.
Check on your dad's side.
What? Most of my dad's relatives are gone.
Well, he doesn't mean that they're here.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I see what you mean. I don't remember any of my... Dad was not a suspenders wearer. I don't know if any of my uncles were suspenders wearers. I mean, when I hear suspenders, I think of Matt Smith as the doctor.
Just check on that, because I feel like there's someone that's wanting me to show they wore either. I think it's suspenders. They're wearing like a sport coat, or like they look like they're dressed up, but they got suspenders underneath. This may have been. They're also showing me one of those top hats, stove top hats, I guess. So. It's someone during that time on your dad's side.
So far behind that nobody remembers who they were.
Well, now, real quick, like before we start wrapping, are you doing Mid-South this year?
Oh, I hadn't heard from Keith yet. He usually calls me.
They have. You can get on the site because they got a new one, and they're doing it at a different location too. It's supposed to be in the hotel, a big room that they got and everything. So check.
Yeah, well, last year when he called me, I had already booked a seminar there, a seminar weekend there. So I was like running back and forth, and we was in the same hotel. That was really weird, but. Now I'm going to be in Louisville again in September. I've got a program called Life Directions now. It's a workshop, and I'm doing that in September there in Louisville. But I haven't heard from Keith yet. I've been there for I think 12 or 13 years, so he may be contacting me. Do you know when it is?
I wanted to say May or June. I can't remember which one.
Okay.
But they just got done posting it up on the site, from what I understand.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say if he usually calls me. He usually just calls me up and says, "Hey, what are you doing such and such a date?" You know, and I'll say, we've been teasing each other for years. He's my older, uglier brother, and if he gets on your show, he'll say I'm his older, uglier brother. With that, love the guy.
Well, you got to watch out. One day it's going to be like, "Can you help me move or drive me to the airport?"
Yeah.
I was curious. Are you still doing your Reflections show?
I am not.
No, no, he's not.
I guess it's been about 6-7 years now.
It has been a long time.
Yeah, it has.
That's why I asked.
Well, look. Well, the original plan is to put it on hiatus, but it ended up where I just, we talked about this earlier. It just takes a lot of time to put together a good show, and I just don't have that time right now. So.
Well, our time has just slipped right on the way. Rick, I want you to give out where people can get a hold of you, follow you, whatever you got going on, and then stay on till after we're off. Okay.
Well, thank you again for this time. The time just flew. It's 2 hours. It don't seem like 2 hours. It seems like it's been 20 minutes. But if you want to know, just I got a website, lifeskift.com, Facebook. You can go to Facebook. We're friends now, so friend me. And I post on there every morning. I'm not on there all the time, but I'm posting most of the time. It's something in the mornings. We've got some events going on. They'll be posted in the website and also on Facebook as well. I guess, we got, as I said, we're going to be in Illinois in April, and we're going to be in Kentucky, Louisville in September. We got some other places that we're going to be announcing soon too. So looking forward to it. Our next big thing is we're going to have we're doing now what's called a Connections Weekend, where we include an investigation, a workshop on Saturday morning and Saturday evening at Gallery Connections, and we're doing that up in at the Ford County Sheriff's House and Jail up in Paxton, Illinois. And we're going to be doing the investigation there. It's an incredible place. I've been there before. And then we're going to do the workshop at the Paxton Community Center on Saturday morning, the gallery Saturday night. That'll be April the 13th and 14th, so looking forward to that. So, but just go on Facebook and friend me and go from there.
All right, sounds good. Jeff, you got to go quick.
Yeah, Jeff, the paranormalview.com is our website. You can go to the facebook.com/the paranormal view, all one word, for stuff. And you can follow me at Twitter and on Instagram at RealBadger, RealBadger.
All right. I want to thank Rick for being on with us tonight, and thank everybody for listening in. We appreciate each and every one of you. So we will see you next week at the same time. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal